So, hello, welcome to Gullah Business of Charleston. I know it has been a while, but we're here with another exciting feature, and we have today Jerry J5 and his music. And so, thank you again for joining me and Nicole, our president, who's here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes.
So, I have to ask you this question.
Okay.
How would you describe your sound and what genre you're into?
Well, first off, I would say it's soulful, honest. I would say that it's an intimate sound, but I would also say that it's kind of hard to put into just a few words because my writing, it varies, because I do gospel, and my gospel is praise, and worship. And but then I write R&B as well. So it's kind of a blend. And oftentimes I try to marry the two. So there's some double entendres there. I try to give you a nice, soulful, honest message, but with the backdrop of like some soulful beats and a rhythmic type of music, type of track. Yeah. So some people say it's R&B, but it's okay. I would call it rhythm and love. I know some say what it's gospel, some say it's R&B. I just call it love music. That's really what I call it. Because everything I do, I just do it with love. And a lot of the content is about love. I mean, if I'm worshiping, then that's me getting intimate with the Father, But if I'm talking about a relationship, then that's still about love and romance. So
when did you start singing?
Well, I mean, I've been singing since I was like young, middle school. Well, pretty much all my life, I'm gonna be honest with you. I started in the church singing church songs, But as far as coming up listening to BB and CC Winans, and songs like, they had a song, their early music where it was him and her, kind of put you in the mind of songs like, there was a song by Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald. It was called On My Own. This isn't how it was supposed to be, So songs like that, where it's male, female, and it just seemed like it was very romantic. It was touching it hard, and it was his part and her part. So a lot of times when I'm writing a female part, but they may not be a female to sing with me. I'm just basically singing both parts. So that's why I say sometimes it's double entendre, because I'm singing not only from the male perspective, but what I believe to be the female perspective as well. So sometimes when you listen to the song, it's kind of like you got to hear both sides. You hear what I'm saying, but then go back and give it a second listen, and then you'll see, oh, this is what she would say. Yeah.
Because you were talking about writing. So when you do write your songs, like I always think about when people are writing, where do they write? Do they write somewhere in quiet, or like what is your writing style? Where do you find yourself writing these songs?
Well, I really write life, so I heard somebody say this, as long as you write life, you'll always have something to talk about. So it's real. Everything that happens, everything that I see, everything that I hear, In so many words, it can become a song. It has that potential to become a song. So really, the song will write itself. You just have to channel it, and access the information. So when we're talking to each other, we're giving information. When we are looking at each other, we're giving information. If I'm looking at you and you don't know that I'm looking at you, I'm downloading the information. So it's always information that is given. You just have to access it and then process it and then release it. That's how the song is written. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had this idea when I was 17 and 18 years old. I had a dream, and then I had a thought and a vision, and it was like, one day you're gonna be doing R&B and gospel, but it's gonna be gospel music that sounds like R&B. And so, I mean, they're actually doing it now, but before they was doing before a lot of these people started doing it, I had the epiphany back then. So it's almost like, you ever heard the saying, energy is never lost nor destroyed. It is simply passed on from one place to the next, or from one person to the next. You can have a thought or whatever, and you never really follow or pursue it. Then next thing you know, you hear telling somebody doing this or somebody doing that. The energy is out there, right? I had a song that I had written, and I asked him, and I was doing it one way, and I had the idea to do it one way. And I asked my cousin, how would you do this, or how would you interpret this melody? And they did it a totally different way. And I said, that's it. Well, I have written songs, and just keeping it to myself. This is kind of when I knew that I need to put these things out. So, a song that Jodeci did, "Come and Talk to Me." I really want to know your name. I really want to meet you, girl. I cry for you, stuff like that. Well, I was writing stuff like this back in the day when I was in, middle school, high school, and then I would hear a song. I'm like, was they singing my song? I had never met them, but it's the energy. And for some reason, it just seems like other people are picking up on what you're putting down. So I just figured, I need to put some of this stuff out myself, because every time I think of something, somebody else is already. So
how do you try to go ahead and expose this genre to other audiences? Because, like you said, like you hear, like back in the day in the '90s, you had Jodeci, you had different
right,
groups like that, and now R&B. I was listening to a Tank podcast. It was talking about like, okay, people use R&B, but they sample it. They
yeah,
don't really.
yeah,
There's not a lot of true musicians to it. And so it's like now it's like a whole thing with his podcast. He's trying to expose people to R&B and its
right,
roots
right.
rather than the sample. And so I guess my question is, how do you try to promote your music to different audiences, especially since they're used to samples, you
Right,
know?
right. Well, initially I was and so I put out a gospel album, and then I put out an R&B album, and then the thing about my gospel stuff is my gospel sometimes sound like R&B. My R&B sometimes sound like gospel. But I was using the church as a platform, because a lot of times they have situations where they'll invite you to come and speak or do poetry or something like that on a youth night or whatever. And I was putting CDs together, and I go there and pass them out and promote my music. And anytime somebody's doing something and I catch a flyer or get wind that somebody's doing something and I'm on somebody's radar and they ask me to come and do it, then I'll do it. But a lot of people pretty much know, because I'm all over social media, so it's not hard to promote myself. But I'm using 810 Studios, the 810 media company. They're helping me with marketing, and they help promote me, and in really the grand scheme of things.
Oh, that's good. Shout out to 810 Studios.
Mhm.
Also, I'm just curious to know, like, when you said a certain group, I thought about them, but like also talked about BB Winans and CC Winans. When we talk about R&B, who are your favorite R&B artists?
Lost Without You was one of the first songs that I heard that really inspired me. That melody, that tone, and it really had that same. If you listen to Lost Without You, and then if you listen to On My Own with Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald, to me, they have a similar vibe. And that was kind of my vibe back in the day with the love songs that had melody and groove. Even though one of them was a gospel song, another one was R&B, I felt like, now this is my world. So that was the inspiration behind me trusting to marry the two.
Yeah. And BB, he's so talented. Well, both of them are talented. They're so talented. That's awesome.
Tell us a little bit about your current project right now.
A current project. Actually, I got, it's kind of like a before and after, right? Mm-hmm. So I got a current project called Love on Purpose, right? But I also want to promote the Undeniable album. I got an album called Undeniable. It has a song called Glory on it. This is all gospel, but I also have a song up there called, it rides that same wave of R&B gospel. It's a totally, completely gospel album, but the vibes you get is R&B and hip hop. So the message is total, like Glory is, that speaks for itself. I'm giving God the glory, give him the glory. But it's behind that boom bap beat, so it sounds like it's hip hop, but it's definitely a gospel song, no doubt, right? Mm-hmm. And then I have other songs that I got a song called Man in the Mirror. Of course, when we hear Man in the Mirror, we think about Michael Jackson. Well, but my Man in the Mirror is like, you got to get yourself together, but first you got to deal with the man in the mirror, and that's you. So it's got like a kind of R&B vibe, but it's still talking about dealing with this person right here. So it's promoting self-awareness, and kind of not pointing the finger at somebody else, but looking in the mirror. So that's kind of what that's about. Then I got a song that says, Can't Let You Get Away. And that's really talking about the music. But it's also talking about like the spirit. Sometimes when you get caught up in the spirit and you want to worship and you want to hold on to that feeling, that vibe, that intimacy, and you don't want to let it go. Mm-hmm. But also I like to kind of refer that back to the music. I don't want to let the music go. And so I'm a fan of the music, and just hoping other people can be a fan of it too. So a lot of that's in that gospel album. But then I got a most current album called Never Let You Go. Well, this one song is Never Let You Go, and that's very intimate and very romantic. And then I got a song called Love on Purpose. And then I got a song called Love Avenue. And then I got The Secret to Love. So everything I do is about, love and inspiration, So even when it's R&B, it's about love, which it should be, because we're talking about the blues, right? But it's more inspirational. We're talking about love. And when it's gospel, we're talking about worship. But what's the backdrop to worship? It's love. And we worship you because we love you. So to me, I'm pretty much putting out the same message across the board. You're just getting one message in the form of R&B and one in the form of gospel.
So how do you stay inspired when you're talking about, you writing and what you want to put out for people to hear, that to keep, going and writing and singing?
That's a good question. Inspiration. I don't know. It's life. Like I said, life is a song. Everything we talk about, we read about, we hear about, it all has the possibility to be a song. Therefore, everything I say, do, hear, see, and touch also has the ability to inspire me. I just have to see it for what it is. It can either be positive or negative. These things can impact you in one way, up or one way down, and I just choose to see the positive in everything. And so therefore I'm inspired just from living. And a lot of people that are not inspired, I think they're halfway in the grave, because just being able to live and breathe and have access to life and love and inspires you in one way or the other. Yeah.
I was listening to
Yeah,
that.
ask me about the music. Okay, that night in December.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to know about that?
So when you was writing that song, how did that come about?
Well, it was December. So I decided to use that in a sentence, and I was thinking about a woman, and I think I saw a female in a red dress. So I just had an idea. Red, I was thinking Christmas. It hadn't gotten to Christmas yet, but I just felt like, of course, I was sitting with the idea of seeing her in that red dress. And I was just imagining if I was with her and it's in December, what that night would kind of be like and how I would start the night. And
it was very detailed. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure I ask about this one.
Yeah. So it's hey, you gotta have an imagination. That's creativity,
Yeah.
But thank you again for joining us.
Yes.
Tiffany, really do appreciate it.
By the way, I do have my number in a song. So I often say this to people, if they want to know how to reach me directly, one of my songs has my number in it. So all they have to do is go through and listen to my music. They'll find a way to get in touch with me.
Oh, that's a good marketing strategy.
Yeah, that is. That is.
Yes, but be sure to check out Glory. My song's Glory. Well, right now we have connected with about 2,000 radio stations across the land, and most recently we had some digital billboards that we did. My cover for the song Glory, and and the album cover, front and back. So and then we're just looking to do a little bit more, one day at a time. We're working on it. I'm with Tamika, and we're constantly strategizing and finding ways get the word out. Each and every day we put our heads together and try to figure out what we can do next.
Yeah, because not to take up too much time, but I heard that with the radio campaigns, you're featured in certain states. Clearly here in North Carolina, but what other states also too? Is it Georgia, if I'm not mistaken?
Florida, New York, California, Mississippi, Missouri, and Canada.
Look
Wow.
at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's good. So you're reaching a lot of people through
Yeah.
radio just in those
Yeah.
states alone.
Check out my album by J5, Jerry J5 Wright. My album Undeniable. Check out my hit single Glory. And once you do that,
they're gonna be in love. That's one thing.
yeah. Once you do that, check out my song Never Let You Go. Yeah.
So I was about to say, what's your for anybody that's interested in contacting you or finding out more about your music and listening to it, how can they get all that info?
Okay, well, just Google J5 Music or Jerry J5 Wright or Jerry Wright. My IG is at Jerry Wright 5717. My email is rev.jw72@gmail.com. That's rev.jw72@gmail.com. And on Facebook, it's just Jerry Wright.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you see J Wright or something like that on Facebook, that's an old email. I mean, that's an old Facebook that got hacked. But everything is pretty much Jerry Wright. Yeah. And my Twitter is at Jerry Wright 15. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for asking your questions. I hope that I was able to give you some type of answer or, at least bring you into my world or my artistic mind and help you understand a little bit more about what I do and how I do it.
No, you definitely did.
You did. Yeah.
So we want to thank everyone for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
You.
Keep supporting us, and we appreciate it every step of the way.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on. Everyone, we'll have all his information listed below so you can keep in contact with him. We wish you much success in everything that you're doing. And anytime you have another project you want to come on, just let us know. We will be glad to have you on again.
Thank you so much.